Carolyn Jones was fluent in French, but that was far from her most astonishing secret. Years later, one terrifying flight to Los Angeles would mark the beginning of the end. Midair, she was suddenly overcome by violent illness and barely made it to the restroom before vomiting large amounts of blood. Horrified, she was rushed straight into emergency surgery after landing. Yet what the surgeons discovered once they opened her abdomen left even experienced doctors stunned. Long before Hollywood knew her name, Carolyn already possessed the spark of a future star. Her love of film and music came from her mother, who encouraged her fascination with the entertainment world from an early age. But behind that dream was a painful childhood. During the depths of the Great Depression, her father walked out on the family, unable to cope with the financial strain, leaving Carolyn's mother to raise two daughters alone. With nowhere else to turn, Carolyn, her mother, and her sister moved into her maternal grandparents' small home. Life there was far from peaceful. The cramped house and her grandfather's explosive temper filled her childhood with fear and uncertainty. Around the same time, Carolyn developed chronic asthma, forcing her to spend weeks confined to bed and isolated from the outside world. Trapped indoors, Carolyn escaped through imagination. She immersed herself in music, devoured Hollywood fan magazines, and dreamed of a glamorous life beyond the walls of her bedroom. Those dreams soon became an obsession. Determined to become an actress, she set her sights on the prestigious Pasadena Playhouse and refused to let anything stand in her way. At just 17 years old, Carolyn earned admission to the Pasadena Playhouse in 1947. While studying acting, she also found romance. In August 1949, she met fellow student Dawn Donaldson, and the two fell in love almost immediately. After dating for only a year, they married in 1950. However, the relationship drew attention because Carolyn was just 19 while Dawn was 27. The marriage proved short-lived, ending in divorce only a year later. After 3 demanding years of training, Carolyn graduated as one of the school's brightest students. But she soon learned a harsh truth about Hollywood: talent alone wasn't enough. To compete for leading roles, she felt pressured to transform herself completely. She underwent plastic surgery, dyed her hair blonde, softened her Texas accent, changed her posture and walk, and reinvented her wardrobe. The dramatic makeover paid off. Before long, a talent scout spotted her performance, opening the door to the Hollywood career she had dreamed about for years. Carolyn Jones finally caught the break she had dreamed of when a talent scout spotted her on stage at the Players Ring Theater. After an impressive screen test, Paramount Studios immediately signed her to a 6-month contract. It seemed like every sacrifice had finally paid off. Yet behind the excitement, Carolyn couldn't shake one painful thought. Hollywood had embraced her glamorous makeover far more enthusiastically than the acting talent she had spent years developing. In 1952, Carolyn made her film debut in The Turning Point, a title that proved surprisingly fitting. Her family celebrated the milestone with overwhelming emotion. Her mother wept with pride, while her grandparents danced around the living room. But the celebration was short-lived. After only 2 more minor roles, Paramount chose not to renew her contract, and almost overnight, Hollywood's attention drifted elsewhere. Without steady work, Carolyn's finances quickly spiraled. Money became so scarce that her sister Betty moved in to help cover the rent. Refusing to give up, Carolyn accepted every acting opportunity she could find and returned to the stage at the Preston Sturges Players Theater. It was there that fate introduced her to another struggling dreamer, an ambitious young writer named Aaron Spelling, who would later become one of television's most successful producers. Carolyn and Aaron connected almost instantly. They shared relentless ambition, a sharp sense of humor, and an unwavering love for the entertainment industry. Both were chasing impossible dreams while trying to survive in Hollywood. Their bond grew stronger as they encouraged each other through rejection after rejection, believing success was only a matter of time. That breakthrough finally arrived in 1953 when Carolyn landed a role in House of Wax. Although her part was relatively small, the groundbreaking 3D horror film became a massive success and introduced her to audiences across America. For the first time, critics singled out Carolyn's performance for praise, giving her the recognition she had worked so hard to earn. At last, it felt as though her career was truly beginning. While her professional life flourished, her romance faced unexpected complications. Carolyn believed Aaron Spelling was the love of her life and eagerly waited for him to propose. But Aaron hesitated, convinced he couldn't offer marriage until he achieved financial success. Growing impatient, Carolyn decided to take matters into her own hands. She proposed to him herself, and the couple married in April 1953, defying the expectations of the era. Carolyn continued challenging convention after the wedding. Unlike many women in the 1950s, she had no desire to abandon her career in favor of becoming a traditional housewife. When the subject of children came up, she made a deeply personal decision. She believed it would be unfair to have a family if her heart remained devoted to acting, and she refused to bring children into the world knowing her career would always come first. As Carolyn focused on building her future, a Columbia Pictures executive approached her with what he claimed would be the studio's biggest film of the year, a promise that seemed destined to change everything once again. Carolyn's biggest opportunity yet seemed to be within reach when a Columbia Pictures executive promised her a starring role in what was expected to become the studio's biggest film of the year, if she could impress them with one final screen test. It was the chance she had been waiting for. But on the eve of the audition, disaster struck. Carolyn was rushed to the hospital with a severe case of pneumonia and a raging 104-degree fever. Fighting for her life, she missed the screen test entirely, and the coveted role was handed to Donna Reed, who later won an Academy Award for the performance. For Carolyn, it was a devastating reminder of how cruel fate could be. Heartbroken, Carolyn began questioning whether Hollywood had already passed her by. As major opportunities disappeared, she accepted whatever work she could find. Eventually, she landed a supporting role in The Bachelor Party. To reinvent herself once again, she cut her signature hair short and dyed it dark, embracing a completely different image. The gamble paid off. Although she appeared on screen for barely 8 minutes, critics couldn't stop talking about her unforgettable performance. Suddenly, reporters wanted interviews, audiences noticed her talent, and the Academy rewarded her with a nomination for Best Supporting Actress. After years of fighting for recognition, Carolyn finally felt she had earned her place among Hollywood's elite. She desperately hoped the Golden Oscar would validate every sacrifice she had made along the way. When the envelopes were opened, however, disappointment struck once again. The Oscar went to Miyoshi Yumiki, leaving Carolyn with nothing more than the honor of being nominated. Although the loss stung deeply, it only strengthened her determination. Rather than giving up, she became even more committed to proving that she belonged among Hollywood's biggest stars. In 1958, another remarkable opportunity arrived when Carolyn was cast alongside Elvis Presley in King Creole, the final film he completed before entering the U.S. Army. Yet once again, illness threatened to derail her career. Suffering from a 103-degree fever, Carolyn reportedly begged producers to excuse her from filming a romantic kissing scene, fearing she would infect Elvis. According to the story, Elvis jokingly replied, "That's all right, maybe it'll get me out of the Army." Despite the circumstances, the film became another box office success. Carolyn dreamed of becoming a glamorous leading lady, but Hollywood kept assigning her eccentric supporting roles. Determined to change that, she insisted on playing the romantic lead in Career, while Shirley MacLaine took the quirky supporting part instead. Although critics praised Carolyn's performance more than ever before, the film itself failed at the box office, leaving her career stalled once again. Refusing to let disappointment show, Carolyn embraced the glamorous Hollywood lifestyle she believed audiences expected from a movie star. She and Aaron Spelling built an extravagant 13-room mansion, filled her closets with luxurious furs, and collected expensive jewelry. But behind the glamorous image, reality was changing. Acting offers became increasingly scarce just as Aaron's writing career exploded, making him the more successful partner. The shift placed enormous strain on their marriage, and when Aaron began staying out late night after night without explanation, their relationship reached a breaking point. In August 1964, the couple divorced, leaving Carolyn feeling as though every part of her life was falling apart. Only 34 years old, Carolyn believed her greatest opportunities might already be behind her. Ironically, the role that would define her entire career was still waiting. For years she had rejected television, convinced that true success could only be found on the silver screen. But then an unusual offer arrived, a leading role in a delightfully dark, quirky, and comedic television series. Against her instincts, Carolyn decided to take a chance, unaware that the decision would change her life forever. The role seemed as though it had been created specifically for Carolyn Jones. In 1964, she accepted the part of the elegant yet mysterious Morticia Addams in the Addams Family, a decision that would forever define her career. From the moment the series premiered, audiences were captivated, but not everyone was pleased. Morticia's passionate romance with her on-screen husband, Gomez, shocked many conservative viewers, whose expectations of television couples were completely upended by the pair's constant affection and undeniable chemistry. While audiences debated Morticia's bold romance, Carolyn was quietly battling another challenge behind the scenes: her unforgettable costume. Morticia's sleek black gown looked effortlessly glamorous on screen, but wearing it was anything but comfortable. The dress was so tightly fitted that Carolyn could barely walk, and removing it after filming often took nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, costume designers secretly added Velcro to the back so she could finally move around between takes without struggling. And despite those inconveniences, the Addams Family gave Carolyn everything she had spent years chasing. At 35 years old, she finally became a household name. Fans adored her portrayal of Morticia, and the series quickly evolved into a pop culture phenomenon. After years of setbacks and disappointments, Carolyn had finally achieved the fame she had always dreamed about. But success proved heartbreakingly brief. Although the show attracted a loyal following, ABC canceled the Addams Family after only 2 seasons. Carolyn was devastated. She managed to secure a handful of guest appearances on television, but substantial acting offers became increasingly rare. She suspected the reason was simple: audiences could no longer separate Carolyn Jones from Morticia Addams, making it difficult for producers to imagine her in any other role. With Hollywood opportunities drying up, Carolyn returned to the stage and accepted a role in the Broadway production of The Homecoming. Instead of reigniting her passion, the experience left her feeling exhausted, bitter, and convinced that her best years were behind her. Seeking comfort, she grew close to her vocal coach, Herbert Green. Their friendship blossomed into romance, and the two married in December 1968. Many of Carolyn's friends questioned the relationship, believing Herbert was controlling and unusually distant. Their concerns only deepened after he persuaded Carolyn to leave acting altogether and move with him to Palm Springs. Far removed from Hollywood and the career she loved, Carolyn slowly lost the sense of purpose that had always driven her. What she had hoped would be a fresh start instead became one of the unhappiest chapters of her life. 7 years later, Carolyn finally admitted the truth to herself: she missed acting more than anything. Even at 46 years old, she refused to believe it was too late. She ended her marriage, returned to Los Angeles, and began rebuilding her career from scratch. To her relief, audiences welcomed her back. She resumed acting on television, appeared in stage productions, and gradually rediscovered the confidence and fulfillment she thought she had lost forever. Performing in the theater brought another unexpected blessing. Carolyn fell deeply in love with fellow actor Peter Bailey Britton, and for a time it seemed her personal life was finally falling into place. Then tragedy struck. During a flight from Dallas to Los Angeles, she suddenly became violently ill, barely reaching the airplane restroom before vomiting large amounts of blood. Terrified, she was rushed into emergency surgery immediately after landing, where doctors removed much of her stomach. The devastating diagnosis soon followed: colon cancer. Determined not to let the disease define her, Carolyn chose to keep her diagnosis private. She endured painful surgeries and chemotherapy in secret while continuing to work whenever possible. When the cancer briefly went into remission, she accepted a starring role on the daytime soap opera Capital. Sadly, doctors soon discovered the disease had returned, and this time the treatments gradually stopped working. Even as her health rapidly declined, Carolyn refused to abandon the profession she loved. She continued filming Capital despite constant pain, and when she became too weak to stand, producers arranged for her scenes to be filmed from a wheelchair. Knowing her time was running out, Carolyn focused on spending her remaining days surrounded by love. In September 1982, she married Peter Bailey Britton in a heartfelt ceremony, determined to celebrate life while she still could, even as she bravely faced the battle she knew she might not win. Wanting to look radiant on one of the happiest days of her life, Carolyn carefully prepared for her wedding despite the devastating toll cancer had taken on her body. To conceal the hair she had lost during treatment, she wore an elegant lace and ribbon cap, determined to face the day with grace and dignity. Although gravely ill, she refused to let the disease overshadow the love she had finally found. Carolyn's condition continued to worsen over the following months. In July 1983, she slipped into a coma at her home in West Hollywood. Surrounded by loved ones, she passed away on August 3, 1983, at just 53 years old. After decades of triumph, heartbreak, and extraordinary perseverance, Hollywood lost one of its most unforgettable stars. Even in her final days, Carolyn made sure the role that defined her legacy would be preserved for generations to come. Before her death, she arranged for Morticia Addams' iconic black gown and wig to be donated to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Later, her widower also donated her collection of the Addams Family scripts to UCLA, ensuring that future generations could remember the woman who transformed Morticia into one of television's most beloved and enduring characters. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. I hope you discovered something new and interesting today. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next destination. See you in the next journey.